Yo, welcome to the Hoop Objective Podcast with your boy Armani. Yesterday was interesting. Again, these games, they didn't go down the way I thought they would go down. And there was actually some news yesterday. So, let's go ahead and get this started. So, starting off with these playoff games yesterday, we gonna get into the recap. The Hawks, bro, I hate to say it because this hurts. Yesterday, it hurt when it happened too, but the Hawks beat my Heat 111-110 off Trae Young's 24 points and 8 assists. Jimmy had a 20 point, 8 assists, 10 rebound game. He had a triple-double type game, but we're gonna get into the details later. We got the Bucks who beat the Bulls. 111-81. They actually destroyed them. It was a 30-point blowout in an away game, a playoff away game, which is unusual. You don't see that. Bobby Portis had his 18 points, 16 rebounds. So Bobby Portis was on the boards. Then you got Grayson Allen who had 22 points off the bench. Then you got the Suns who narrowly escaped with a 114-111 win in New Orleans. CP3 had 28 and 14. DeAndre had 28, 17 rebounds, 3 steals. Brandon Ingram, he had 34 points. And you got CJ who had 30 points and 7 assists. So, that was a closer game than most people would have thought. Even without Book, the Pelicans did compete. So, that's a recap of what happened with yesterday's games. And now, let's get into that unfortunate Hawks and Heat game. Y'all already know. People who've been watching me for the short time I've been on here, y'all know that I'm a big Heat fan. So we barely lost, man. We lost by 1 point, and the Hawks showed us that they gonna keep fighting. The Hawks not going, they're not gonna back down because we're a 1 seed and because we're a contender and we're up 2-0. Because if you want to be honest with you, all we really did was hold home court. So, the Hawks didn't take that too serious. And they came and they kept playing, they kept fighting. There were some runs in this game that we made that they didn't back down from. A young team like Minnesota, they would have seen us make a run and they would have just laid down. But the Hawks ain't do that. And you could see that in their attitude. Trae Young's attitude is rubbing off on the rest of them. His I don't care, his I don't know, his swag type of thing is it's running off on them. The game was pretty close. It was pretty back and forth for the first half. Hawks winning at halftime with like a 6 or 7 point lead. Both teams are hitting each other back and forth. Where the game differed is in the third and in the fourth, because in the third quarter the Heat did make a run. We did make a run in the third quarter. We was up by like 11 or 12 ending off the third quarter. We were playing tough defense. We were getting the boards. We were making, the tough threes, the timely threes. And I felt like in the third quarter, I felt like we had control of the game. It didn't feel like the Hawks really had a chance after the third quarter, because, the first half it was back and forth. And the third quarter was the first time in the game where you see one team actually have a real run, or, take control of the game or whatnot. So that was when I thought we had the game. I thought it was over not over, but I thought we most likely got it. But the Hawks was like, nah. We not going down 3-0. We not going to lose like that. And I commend them for it. And last year's playoff run is starting to you're starting to see the experience they got from it and how it's translating to the future, and how it's translating to the game right now. So last year's playoff run is what the Hawks really look like when they're at their full potential. I don't think this year they are a different team, and they're not the same team as last year, and they all year they haven't played to their full potential. But last night showed what the Hawks look like playing at their full potential, using their playoff experience from last year and using their depth. They're using their depth. They had 6 guys in double figures, and you could see they have it all, honestly, on the roster in terms of the way they built their roster. They have the playmaking, they have shooting, they have defense, they have rebounding. And you could kind of see that they're kind of missing Clint Capella too, because if they had Clint Capella, things would be different also. They will have a lot more of a chance to win the series with Clint Capella. But roster-wise, they have everything. They're not really missing out on anything roster-wise. It's just when it comes to translating it into the game and actually doing what y'all did last year repeatedly, they have struggled with that all year. And then you could see them struggle with that with with game 1 and game 2. And in game 3 is when things get different, because in the fourth quarter, this Hawks team in the fourth quarter of this game was completely different than the Hawks team in the fourth quarter in game 1 and 2. In clutch time, they made a run. They made a run in the fourth quarter. They destroyed us in the fourth quarter. And as soon as they started making that run, it sort of kind of felt like, yeah, they're taking the vibe back. They're taking the momentum back, because we had all the momentum going into the fourth, and the Hawks took it back. The Hawks wasn't just gonna lay down and let us just win that game. Especially because if they would have lost, they're going down 3-0, and after that 3-0 is a wasteland. You can't really do nothing with that. They wasn't gonna come back from anything at that point. It was gonna be over. So they made it a series, and it's still close. So I want to give the Hawks all the credit, because the Hawks took that game, and Trae Young with that clutch game-winning floater, he made like 3 logo threes in this game, and then he makes that floater, and it's like, you can slow him down, but you can't guard Trae Young. You can't guard Trae Young, especially in that situation. He had the pace. He was pushing the pace, and he got into the paint, and he got a good floater off, man. That floater was deflating. Once they made that, I was like, yeah, they got it. They got it. Cause I believe in us when it comes to those situations, but that I knew we wasn't gonna score with 4 seconds left. Especially considering our offense in the fourth quarter was already stagnant, bro. It was already stagnant. When we're winning and when we're going on a run, we do that with ball movement. We do that with player movement. We're not an ISOs or one-on-one team, and we turned into that going into the fourth. You could kind of see Jimmy get his confidence. He made, I believe it was like he got 2 or 3 free throws at the line. Then he made a 3-pointer, and then he started getting confident, which is what you want from Jimmy, because Jimmy is a killer. He is a killer. He's proven that he can win you games when he's hot. The problem was they started ISOing him. It's not a problem getting Jimmy shots off of plays, but it does become a problem when you just ISO Jimmy and expect him to just win you the game. That's not the way we play. That's not the way we've been playing. That's not the way we've been winning. So the Heat offense got stagnant. The only times we really scored was off of second chance opportunities. When we would miss, and then the Hawks, their defense we'll get the rebound, and the Hawks defense isn't really set anymore, so we will get those kick out threes or those put back layups, or get fouled after bringing down a rebound, or any stuff of that nature. So we got very stagnant. We didn't play well in the fourth. We couldn't close out game 3. And yeah, the Hawks took advantage. Trae Young took advantage, bro. They got out of there. what we have to do going forward, what the Heat need to do going forward after they seen what happened with this game when you let up, is keeping your foot on their neck, bro. You can't, especially when they got a star like Trae Young, a young star like Trae Young, you can't just let them, you can't let them make runs like that. And if you are going to make them make a run like that, you have to stop the bleeding. And you're not going to do that by ISO ball. You're not going to do that by just giving it to Jimmy on the top of the key and letting him. No, because that's not how we win. That's not the way we play. So they have to keep their foot on their keep their foot on their knocks, keep their foot on their necks, and also, run the offense, run the offense. But yeah, the Hawks took that one. You gotta give them all the credit in the world. They still here. It's 2-1. Hopefully we can go up 3-1 next game, but. Yeah, man. It's a series now, so we're gonna see. But this next segment is gonna be a rant. It's gonna be, I'm gonna get on this team because I gave them props after game 2. The Bulls, after they beat the Bucks in game 2, I gave them props, and I was saying, especially with Middleton's injury, I was like, the Bulls can make this competitive, which I honestly still think that the Bulls can make this series competitive, but not the way they played last night. The way they played last night was disappointing. It was confusing. It was pathetic, to be honest with you. They got blown out by 30 at home in a playoff game. And it's like, how after what happened in game 2, how do you lose that after Middleton gets injured? Like, what went wrong? Like, and I don't even know where to start. You know what? Actually, let's start with DeMar. Let's get on DeMar DeRozan, bro. Because game 2, then he dropped 40? He had a 40-point game, 40-something point game. And it's like, okay. We see DeMar, in the past, he's never been consistent in the playoffs. He's never been a good playoff player. So, game 2 was encouraging. Game 2 was like, all right, we know what you're capable of come playoff time. You're not actually a bum in the playoffs. But game 3 proved otherwise. It's like you try to give him props, and then game 3 proved that, bro, why is he so consistent in the playoffs? What about DeMar DeRozan makes him super inconsistent in the playoffs? And last night wasn't even him missing shots. It wasn't like he was taking the shots and he was missing it, because that's what Jimmy did, right? Jimmy was at least taking the shots, and he was being aggressive. He was trying to win the game, probably not in the best way, but Jimmy Butler was trying to win that game. DeMar DeRozan shot 9 shots? He shot 9 shots. So he followed a 40 piece by taking 9 shots. I don't know if if it was a mental thing for him. I don't know if he was tired. I don't know what was going on with DeMar DeRozan, but DeMar DeRozan's tripping, bro. DeMar DeRozan, he could be game 2 show what he can do, what he's capable of. I thought he was gonna follow that up with probably not a 40 piece. I thought he was gonna drop a cool 28-ish, a 28 to 30 point ish. Keep the ball rolling. But last night was like, it was so frustrating to just watch him not try, bro. And same with Zach LaVine. What's going on with Zach LaVine? I don't know. Like this is your playoff moment. Like, Zach LaVine, has he ever made the playoffs before this? I don't think he's ever made the playoffs before this. He was in Minnesota. Then they trade him because he was in that Jimmy Butler trade. So the Bulls never made he's never made the playoffs, bro. This is Zach LaVine's first playoffs. And in these first 3 games, you haven't seen him do anything. I haven't seen Zach LaVine do anything. He's made zero impact. And it's so frustrating because it's like you have 3 all-star caliber players and, Vucevic, you got, Zach LaVine, you got DeMar DeRozan. And I understand that Lonzo is injured, but that's not an excuse because now Chris Middleton's injured. So you would expect the Bulls to take advantage of a situation like that, and they still haven't taken advantage of that. So I don't know. I don't know if y'all seen that short where Draymond was in the post game interview and he goes, yeah, the playoffs exposes guys. Like, you think a guy is a certain way, but when you get to the playoffs, now you see, is he really that good? And that's a feeling I'm getting from Zach LaVine. That's a feeling you get from Karl-Anthony Towns. That's a feeling you start to get from DeMar DeRozan, because DeMar DeRozan shows what he's capable of, and then on the other end, he's so inconsistent that he follows a 40 piece with a 9 or a 10-12 piece. Like, I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. And don't even get me started on the Bulls' effort that they showed last night. The Bulls showed no effort. They were lethargic. They were nonchalant. They didn't try to win that game. It didn't feel like they was playing a playoff game. It felt like a preseason game. They wasn't trying. And that's big when it comes to trying to win a championship or trying to get deep in the playoffs. If you're not going to even put in the effort or put in the work to try to, take advantage, especially of a team whose second, third best player, however you feel about Chris Middleton, is out after following the game you had in game 2. I just don't get it. I feel bad for Bulls fans because I could see why I get super frustrated with this team, because this team has the potential to be, honestly, roster wise, they could be a contender roster wise, but who's going to be that guy to take you? And is the team going to show you that effort? It's the team, especially defensively, which the Bucks didn't score much. They scored 111 points, but it's the fact that the Bulls followed that up with scoring 81 points. And it's like, y'all scored 81 points and got blown out by 30 at home in the playoffs. I don't get it. The Bulls are showing that they're the actual fakers, not the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies have been not great, but the Bulls are the real fakers, bro. The Bulls are the real fakers, and it's so disappointing to see what they have such great potential, bro. They could be so good. The Bulls could be so good, but LaVine hasn't done it. He hasn't made any impact. DeMar DeRozan's inconsistent. Vucevic can't guard anyone, and he's also becoming an inconsistent, stretch big. And they got nobodies to put on Giannis, and Giannis wasn't really even dominant in game 3. He was really kicking it out to his teammates. He was really, distributing the touches and the shots to guys like Bobby Portis, Grayson Allen, Drew Holiday. Like, the Bucks won by committee, and I also want to give the Bucks credit, because the Bucks, the Bulls didn't try, the Bulls didn't play well, they were super inconsistent, they were pathetic, but the Bucks, I want to give y'all credit because y'all didn't sit there and say, let's give Giannis the ball, let's give him all the touches, let's give him all the shots because Middleton's out. The Bucks went, all right, Middleton's out, we gonna win this by committee. Giannis, you're gonna take even less shots than he usually takes. Giannis didn't take as many shots as he usually takes, and he was getting it to his guys. And Grayson Allen came off the bench and dropped 22. Those 22 is really big, especially coming from Grayson Allen, because with Grayson Allen, he's a good perimeter defender. You can throw him on, certain guys, and he still drops 22. So, and they have 5 players in double figures. So let's give the Bucks credit. They won, the first away game. They up 2-1, and it's I don't know, bro. I don't know. The Bulls, bro. I don't know. I think they're more what they did last night. It was more disappointing than what Minnesota did in their game 3. Minnesota was bad. Minnesota was bad, bro. The way they gave away that game was bad. But I think the Bulls didn't even give themselves a chance, bro. The Bulls never even had a chance. Their 2 stars, neither one of them played well. Their all-star caliber player didn't play well. They didn't play good defense. Offensively, they were pathetic. No effort. Billy Donovan has to get that team back to just showing effort. Scrap whatever offensive systems you want to implement. Scrap whatever whatever y'all was doing, just scrap it all, bro, and come back in game 4 with effort. Don't not just come back with more effort, bro. Please. I beg of you. But I want to start off the next segment by saying, bro, we should be proud of what New Orleans is doing. I want to follow up a rant by, praise for New Orleans. This team started off 1-12, but they stayed the course. They they go make that big trade, that blockbuster trade for CJ McCollum. They make the play-in. They get themselves in the playoffs, and then right now in the playoffs, they're competing. They're being competitive. Even if they're not winning, they're at least competing. Especially without their number 1 pick, Zion, bro. They didn't have Zion all year, especially with that turmoil going on with Zion and his injury, and if he wants to come back, if they want him to come back, with all that going on, no matter what's going on, they're staying competitive with the number 1 team in the NBA, have the best record in the NBA. Brandon and CJ have flourished in their leadership roles, and the Pelicans team, that they've given the Pelicans team real hope, bro. Without Zion, they've given them real hope. Brandon Ingram is starting to, flourish. He's not a young guy technically anymore. He's starting to become a leader. He's starting to become that, that guy you give the ball to when you need a bucket. When you need a bucket, they give it to BI. And CJ is, I didn't think he could be a point guard. CJ always struck me as that score first, I get a bucket type guy also, but he's flourishing in that, but wait, don't get me wrong. CJ is a bucket getter. He's a certified bucket getter, but he's also becoming that playmaker that he didn't really get the chance to be in Portland, and he's also starting to be that leader that he didn't really get a chance to be in Portland too. So I feel like that's big for New Orleans. Having BI, start actually, he doesn't have that young guy label anymore. He's actually one of the best, the top 20-ish, 25 players in the league. And CJ's been that real leader that they traded for. That's what they traded for, and they ended up. You're starting to see that they won. It looks like they won that trade, and they're getting what they wanted out of that also. And I want to give Willie Green his flowers too, bro. He's showing why he's one of the top bright young coaches in the league, and he instilled hope in that squad, or in that franchise in general. Like, the Pelicans didn't have any clear path without Willie Green. Before Willie Green came in there, and honestly, when Willie Green got hired, I didn't know much of him. Honestly, I didn't know he was going to be this good, and he's starting to remind me of like Amani Williams when it comes to motivating them, getting them on the same page, keeping them on the course. So and staying on that path to see the end goal. Like, they see the end goal, that team sees the end goal, and they just attack it. He's gotten them believing, bro. He got them believing. And it says a lot about his ability, and it says a lot about BI's and CJ's ability. And last night I feel like it was a direct correlation of what they've been doing all year. Even if they lost last night, but to be competing with a team like that, even though they don't have arguably their best player, to be competing with a team like the Suns, it's impressive to me. And you could see going into the future what they could be when Zion comes back. When Zion comes back, that team's going to be a problem. They're not going to be a play-in team next year. If they play like this, if they make some small improvements to that team, they add Zion to the mix, and they keep playing the way they play, which is a lot of ifs, they're not going to be a play-in team next year. They're going to be a top 6 seed next year if they keep doing what they're doing. But with that being said, they lost. They didn't win the game. There's no moral victories in the NBA. It's either you win or you lose. Make or miss league. And the Suns was also like they gave you some good feedback coming out of this game. You know, the Pelicans are 8th seed, but you could see in this game that the Suns showed what they can also be, especially when Book comes back. DeAndre Ayton, he did great. He had 28 and 17, and he was a go-to guy. DeAndre Ayton was a go-to guy for the first 3 quarters. CP3 was getting him the ball all game, and you know they was trying to get him going, especially with Book being out. They needed someone to step up, and you know DeAndre Ayton stepped up, especially at the right time, because if y'all remember, the Suns didn't want to give him that contract, which I think they should definitely give him, especially considering the fact that they don't sign many free agents. So why wouldn't you give your number 1 pick, young rising big man, what he wants, which is a max. Even though I don't believe he is a max player necessarily, his market dictates that he should get that. Especially for y'all, y'all can't afford to let Ayton walk, and Ayton's showing why he deserves that contract, and he deserves, and he's showing why, he should have gotten that last year and in the last offseason. CP3 closed it out, man. CP3 was not he was not playing. Like when it comes to these fourth quarters in games, it was game 1 and game 3 now. Fourth quarter CP3, bro, he's here. He used to get a lot of slack for not being clutch and letting games get away from him, and he's starting to do that right now. He's doing that right now. He's doing the LeBron thing. Y'all know the LeBron thing where he gets his teammates involved. He gets his teammates the ball for the first 3 quarters, and then fourth quarter, it's all him. And CP3 is doing his thing. I thought they were gonna go with a different approach, which was CP3 handle the ball all game. CP3 he does. I thought what CP3 did in the fourth quarter, I thought they were gonna have him do all game, which is actually a smarter approach. The way they did it was way smarter than what I thought they were gonna do. The way they did it was CP3 getting his guys the ball, CP3 not even tripping on scoring himself for the first 2 quarters, and then when it comes to the fourth quarter, he does his thing. Which they did that same thing in game 1, which is honestly the best approach they could have taken. And towards the end of the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter was a little weird, because the Suns had like a 8 to 10 point lead in the last 2 minutes, and the Pelicans just kept coming, bro. They did not stop. They kept making like these weird, late game threes, these free throws. Like CJ got him a little easy layup. So like New Orleans was not letting off, bro. They kept fighting. And towards the end there, you thought like, bro, can this be a crazy ending? Like, is something gonna happen? Even to the buzzer beater at the end of the game, CJ makes it 3. It was like, okay. The Pelicans, they keep going. They keep fighting. They're not stopping. But, the Suns, they ended up staging them off. They ended up, staying the course, which is, I'm not going to say I'm proud of the Suns, because the thing with the Suns is they're the best team. They should be beating the Pelicans. Even without Book, you should be beating the Pelicans. But I'll say last night they played a good game. They had a good game plan. And the Pelicans, they also had a good game plan. But yeah, man. BI. Let me give BI his credit one more time, because the thing with BI that I forgot to say, which I kept thinking, that's why I had to apologize, and I was like, bro, I'm forgetting something. And it's that I want to give BI his prompts for the way he's scoring. He's not necessarily scoring, like, he's not taking these crazy shots, these crazy contested threes, these crazy layups. He's just getting to his spots. All he's doing is he's doing his little between the leg, and then he does a little hezzy, and then he shoots his mid-range shot, which is going in at a high clip. It's going in at an efficient rate. So Let's give Bi his props. Bi, bro, Bi is gonna be. They call him Baby KD, which I can see. You can see it. You can see it. He's not KD. Yeah, let's not say that he's gonna be KD. He's not KD, but he is a similar type build. He is a similar type player. So yeah, man. I'm sorry to keep rambling on about that series and rambling on about the Pelicans and Bi and CJ, but man, I can't help but to give them their props. And like I said, Willie Green, he's that dude. He's that dude. So let's get into some news now. Not no game recaps. This is outside of playoffs, actually. I want to get into some news. Hornets fire their head coach, James Borrego, yesterday, who had a 138 to 163 record over the past 4 years. And he was trusted with that rebuild, especially after the departure of Kemba Walker. He was trusted with that rebuild, and he hasn't done a bad job. He's improved their records by 10 games every single year. So, the last 2 years they make the play-in. They've lost both years, but the Hornets have gotten better with James Borrego at the helm, and they got what they needed out of him. James Borrego was more of a developmental coach, or at least I feel like that's what the Hornets were looking at him like. The Hornets looked at James Borrego like how the Nets looked at Kenny Atkinson. A guy to develop your young guys, a guy to get get your rebuild going. I don't think they honestly really seen that they could win a championship with him. What they seen in him was a developmental guy. Which he did his part. He did his job. He did what they wanted to get out of him. You would think this would be a bad move. If this was the Kings, I would say this is a bad move because honestly, the Kings never really have a plan. The Kings just, king. But I think this is a good move. Some people might say it's a bad move because he took that rebuild. He improved them, 10 games every year. They consistently got better. Their young guys are getting better under him. But I think this is a good move for a few reasons. The first reason that I want to heavily emphasize, is that he never gave the keys to LaMelo Ball. He never gave LaMelo Ball the keys to the offense or the franchise, which is like, I can see why you would do that in his rookie year. In his rookie year, it's like, all right, you want to get him to come off the bench. You want him to slowly, inclement himself into the game, into the system, or whatever the case may be. But right now, LaMelo, you should give him the keys because he's clearly the best player on your team. He's clearly the best playmaker. He's clearly one of the best scorers. Really good defender. He's 6'7". Not defender. He's a really good rebounder. He's an improving defender at 6'7". And you can see noticeably in the games that, he will go more Terry Rozier type ISO ball, really. And Miles Bridges, he will go ISO ball. Other than Miles Bridges with his, fast break lobs from LaMelo, James Borrego would try to go ISO most of the time because he has some really good scorers on that team. But he didn't really play the way that, honestly, it's going to get LaMelo, the best reps, the best timing, because LaMelo is a fast break player. LaMelo is a fast player. And the Hornets weren't trying to play that way, and they wasn't trying to really get him the ball, which, going into the future of your franchise, considering that he's definitely the future of your franchise, y'all got to get him the ball, bro. Y'all got to get him the ball. Which I would think it's obvious. LaMelo's clearly the best player. He's clearly a franchise guy. He's clearly the face of your franchise. And James Borrego just wasn't trying to give that to him. James Borrego didn't want to give him the keys, which is fireable. It's fireable. It's like this is an extreme. This is an extreme, comparison. But let's say LeBron in the Cavs. LeBron's clearly the best player on the Cavs. The young LeBron was clearly the best player on the Cavs. He clearly deserved the keys to the franchise. And you got a head coach who doesn't want to give it to him. For some reason, the head coach just won't give it to him. You're not gonna just sit there and let that happen. You're going to let that coach go. You're going to fire that coach, which that was an extreme example. LaMelo's not LeBron, but it's just an example to say, like, if you got a franchise guy and you know he's your franchise guy and he's clearly the best player on your team, you give him the keys to the franchise. There's no reason not to give him the keys to the franchise. Or the offense. He should have full control of that offense. And I'm not saying just ISO him or just let him dominate the ball, but he should be the main focus in your offense. That's obvious. Any good coach, I feel like, would know that and would do that. But also, he left a lot to be desired, bro, when it came to, in-game adjustments when they're struggling or when another guy's going off. Like Chris Finch, for example. Chris Finch did that same thing. He's doing that same thing in Minnesota, where he's leaving a lot to be desired because they struggle with making in-game adjustments. You would think that as a NBA head coach, as a professional head coach, in-game adjustments wouldn't be a problem. But when it came to the Hornets, when another team was making a run, or when they couldn't score, or when they couldn't play any defense, it wasn't like James Borrego was like, all right, timeout, let's get things, let's see what's going on. That, like Willie Green does that, and I seen Willie Green do that last night, which is why he's a bright young head coach in the league. But you will see James Borrego and Chris Finch, they just don't make in-game adjustments, bro. Same with Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers is the same way. He's so overrated as a coach. Doc Rivers is so overrated as a coach because he doesn't make in-game adjustments. You gotta know how to do those things on the fly. That shouldn't be a problem. But for Chris Finch, guys like Chris Finch and guys like James Borrego, that's a problem. And that's a valid reason to get him out of there, especially with the young team. When your young team is developing bad habits, because the Hornets do have some bad habits. You've seen those in a game like the playing game versus Atlanta, where things get tough. They can't make shots. They can't defend, so they just start taking these ISO shots to try to keep them in the game. And that's not the way you should be playing basketball, especially as a young team. And James Borrego, he's not the guy who's going to bring you, get you to stop doing those bad habits. So that's another valid reason that they got him out of there. And also, it's time for the Hornets to get a new voice in there. They want to take the next step in making the playoffs. And I don't think they believe that they're going to do that with James Borrego. They don't believe James Borrego is the guy that's going to lead them to the playoffs. So the way the Hornets look at it, they're like, bro, let's go get a new guy. Let's go get a new voice. Let's go get someone to get this team into the playoffs. And the guy I like for them, which is a guy that the Kings are looking into trying to get in, which they're not going to get because no one should want that Kings job. No one should take that Kings job. I think Mark Jackson is a perfect guy for them. If he's willing to give LaMelo Ball the keys to the franchise and the keys to the offense. And the reason I say that is because Mark Jackson has already gave a young guy keys to the offense, like Steph Curry. Steve Kerr is utilizing Steve Kerr is using Steph Curry a little better than Mark Jackson used him. But Mark Jackson gave Steph the keys to the offense. Mark Jackson wasn't having that, bro. He also developed that young Warriors team defensively. When it comes to the Warriors' defensive, impact, Mark Jackson started that. Steve Kerr enhanced it, but Mark Jackson started that. Which the Hornets are one of the worst teams in the NBA when it comes to defense. So, Mark Jackson could come in there and he could make an immediate impact in, building their habits and, getting them to play defense, giving LaMelo Ball the keys to the offense and getting them into the playoffs, bro. Mark Jackson did an amazing job with that young Warriors team when he was there. And I think he could do a similar, he could have a similar impact with this Hornets team. They just gotta, get an interview and, hopefully he wants that job because, bro, if they can get Mark Jackson in there, bro, the Hornets are gonna be nice for the next 3, 4, 5 years, and the Hornets are gonna be nice, bro. That's going to be a team that every team in the East or every team in the NBA is going to have to look out for, especially if they can get LaMelo Ball and going at a 25-8 and 25-8 or 25-7-8 clip, which he's honestly, I think he is capable of. I think LaMelo can be a top 3 to 5 point guard in the league if he's given the opportunity. So yeah, man, that's my take on the James Borrego firing. Let's go ahead and get into the next talk about head coaches, though. I want to talk about college hoops, though. We're going to talk about a college hoops head coach and Villanova's head coach, and Jay Wright, retiring after 21 years. He's retiring after 21 years. Super accomplished. In his tenure with Villanova, he had 6 Big East championships, 16 NCAA tourney appearances, 4 Final Four appearances, and 2 national championships in 2016 and 2018. And y'all see his resume, bro, in Villanova, and the way he got to that is he didn't always recruit the 5-star top NBA prospect lottery pick type guys. What he did was he built the best culture in college basketball with, emphasizing unselfishness and sacrifice, and personal accolades. Villanova's never been a Duke where they get their best players the ball almost every possession. What Villanova does is they play more like a old Spurs team, not quite as polished, but they play more like an old Spurs team to where they sacrifice, personal accolades to get the team playing in the most efficient way. So, they always produce the most NBA ready guys, as you can see. That's why, the way they play is most conducive to getting them, getting their players NBA ready. Because the way, for example, the way these blue collar teams play, like Duke, UNC, that's not how they play in the NBA, bro. The way they play, it's a noticeable difference. But in Villanova, they run more of an NBA type of program, and you could see that in the way they win, the way they play defense, the way they're all in, the way the way their guys end up coming out of college. You could literally drop them in an NBA team and they'll make an immediate impact almost every time. You could see that in notable guys, that he coached, including Sadiq Bey, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, Dante DiVincenzo, and Kyle Lowry, bro. You could see all of those guys weren't the best prospect coming out of, high school. None of those guys were the best prospect coming out of high school. But what Villanova does is they take those type of guys that they see you got potential and they go, all right, we can do something with you. We can make you into an NBA guy. But what you have to do first, if you want to become that NBA guy, you gotta put in some work, bro. You gotta sacrifice your personal accolades for the team, and you gotta be all into the system. And the culture that they've built at Villanova has always been, in my opinion, it's always been the best culture. It's always been honestly, I was always confused why the top guys never go to Villanova, because Villanova, in terms of player development, pure player development, is the best. They're the best. Well, honestly, I do know why, because these coaches be paying under the table, so Villanova probably not paying like that, so they ain't trying to do that, but which is understandable. But if I was a top prospect, I would go to Villanova, especially with Jay Wright being there. Jay Wright, he really created something big for basketball, not just Villanova, not just for college basketball, but basketball in general. And his impact, bro, is going to be missed. It's going to be missed with, college and the NBA. It's going to be missed in both, and his impact is going to be missed in basketball in general. So I just wanted to say that. I wanted to mention Jay Wright retiring because Jay Wright has been my favorite coach in college basketball for a while now. So I want to go ahead and get into my predictions for today's games, because y'all know we at the end, we towards the end. I want to say for the first game of the day, with Philly playing Toronto, game 4, Philly already up 3-0, bro. It's sweet. I should have grabbed the broom just to show y'all. I should have been sweeping, bro, because Philly's gonna sweep them today. I don't think it's gonna be on a Harden big game. I don't think it's gonna be on an Embiid big game. I think it's gonna be on a Maxey big game. Maxey's gonna have a big game today. And he's gonna close it out for them. Embiid has been taking them. He took them all the way to this point. So Tyrese Maxey's gonna close it for them. Tyrese Maxey's gonna be like, all right. Let me get game 4, and we're gonna go back to Philly, thinking about round 2. We not trying to play game 5 in Philly. And I think they're going to do that despite Joel Embiid's hand injury that just came out. I believe he tore some ligament in his hand. I don't have the full details. I should have honestly mentioned that. Let me actually search it up. Let me see. Yeah, he has a torn ligament in his right thumb. So Joel Embiid has a torn ligament in his right thumb, which he's expected to play. Which makes sense because he wants to close it out. So, and the faster they close it out, the faster he could go ahead and heal that injury. But yeah, man, they close it out in 4, off of a Maxey good game. But for the next series, Dallas playing Utah. They're gonna take a 3-1 lead today, especially with that team is rolling right now. It's 2-1, bro. And the first 3 games were without Luka. Luka didn't play the first 3 games, and he's coming back for game 4. So if with that team rolling, if the role players keep playing the way they're playing, like Dinwiddie and Jalen Brunson and those boys, they gonna take it, especially with Luka returning. When you add Luka to the mix of what Dallas is doing, it's scary right now, and Utah can't do anything about it because Utah's not even in their they're not even in their top form right now due to what's going on in that locker room or whatever the case may be. Utah can't compete with this Dallas team, especially when Luka comes back. So I got Dallas taking a 3-1 lead today. For the next series, going back to the East, you got Brooklyn versus Boston. Robert Woods. Yeah, that's football. I'm tripping. Robert Williams coming back. He gonna play. I believe they're gonna have him play like 10 to 15-ish minutes just to see how he does. And then if he does good in this game, the next game he's gonna play more minutes. He's gonna get probably be back in, get the same minutes he was getting before. But even with Robert Williams returning, I got Brooklyn taking game 3, heading back home, bro. And honestly, I don't have any reasoning behind this other than they're going back home and it's a must-win game, and they just can't lose. If they lose this game, their season is over. And they know that. The Brooklyn Nets know that. So KD has to have a good game today. A lot of y'all claim him to be the best player in the world, which I think he's second. I have Giannis as the best player in the world, and I think Giannis is an MVP. Even as a Heat fan, we hate Giannis. We don't hate Giannis, but we got some beef with Giannis. So let's just say that, and I still think Giannis is the best player in the world. So, but that's besides the point. KD, y'all say he's the best player in the world. He has to win this game 3. They gotta make it 2-1, and win both home games. Because if not, the series is over. Even with Robert Woods coming back, I'm gonna take the Nets today. I think the Nets make it a 2-1 series. They avoid going down 3-0. With the Memphis versus Minnesota game, I got Memphis going up 3-1. They're going to win both games in Minnesota. I got them winning both games in Minnesota. Reason being is I don't believe Minnesota can sustain the level of play they're playing, when it comes to making the series competitive. Because Minnesota, they're not playing great, but when I say that, I mean they are making it a competitive series versus a number 2 seed, and I believe that they can't sustain it, and I believe Memphis is going to come out and show why they were people were saying why people were saying they're championship contenders. And they're going to go up 3-1, and it's going to happen in dominant fashion this time. I don't think that game's going to be close. Memphis they're going to take it by at least 15 to 20 points out that game. They're going to go back to Memphis up 3-1, in my opinion. And also, I think Jaw's going to have a blow-up game this game, because Jaw hasn't had a great game yet. You haven't really seen Jaw, do what he's done in the regular season yet. So I believe this is a game where that comes out. And yeah, man. Minnesota goes down 3-1. But yeah, that's all I got for y'all for today. Can't wait to see these games tonight. And y'all tune in, tomorrow. And also support from whatever platform you're listening to me from. So whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you're listening to me from, go ahead and subscribe or like or whatever you gotta do on that specific platform. And yeah, man, y'all come back tomorrow, because y'all know this is an everyday thing. So we're gonna be here tomorrow. New episode's gonna be here tomorrow, and look out for my Houston offseason breakdown. The first team that I'm going to be doing that series with is going to be the Rockets, who's the worst team in the league. So y'all look out for that also. And yeah, man, that's it. We out. Peace.